Okay, let's get started. Welcome everyone to the Terraso launch. We're so excited to have you here today. I see that people are introducing themselves in the chat, and I would encourage folks to continue to do that. We've made it so that participants are able to communicate through the chat, and we'd love to foster that communication and sense of collaboration. So to get started, my name is Amaya Webster, and I'm the program manager for Terraso at Tech Matters. Before we actually jump into the launch webinar, I just want to go over a few housekeeping remarks. We will be providing real-time interpretation for English, Spanish, French, and Portuguese. So if you want to hear a specific language, then you'll go to the globe icon at the bottom of your Zoom window and select your language of choice. Most of the webinar will be done in English, but we do have 2 Spanish-speaking presenters. So even if you're an English speaker, you'll probably want to select the English interpretation channel in order to not miss their presentations. If you have questions, we encourage you to ask them in the chat as we go along. We've got some Terraso team members who are monitoring that. And either during the presentation or during our question and answer session at the end of the webinar, we'll make sure to answer as many as we possibly can, if not all questions that come through. So the plan for the next 55 minutes or so is to really show you Terraso. So I'll give you a very brief overview of what Terraso is, and then we'll do some demos and give you a chance to hear from 3 of our landscape leaders who have worked with us to co-design the Terraso platform. We'll talk about what's coming next, and then we'll have our question and answer session. So with that out of the way, we can go ahead and get started. Derek, do you want to switch to the next screen?
Absolutely.
Thank you so much. So as I mentioned, I'm the program manager for Terraso at Tech Matters. Tech Matters is the organization. It's a nonprofit technology company based in the Silicon Valley. Our goal is to help other nonprofits and social change organizations use technology, and we aim to build tools that not just individual organizations can use, but entire industries. Next slide. Tech Matters is part of the 1,000 Landscapes Coalition. The goal of 1,000 Landscapes is to help, 1,000 landscapes and 1 billion people around the world be sustainable, ecologically sound, and economically thrive. In addition to Tech Matters, the core coalition consists of 5 other organizations. There's Eco-Agriculture Partners, Common Land, Rainforest Alliance, the UNDP, and Conservation International. Tech Matters is the technology arm of the coalition, meaning that we help to develop the technological tools and infrastructure like Terraso in order to help achieve the goals of 1,000 Oh. Integrated landscape is a big part of our theory of change. And we believe that the backbone of a healthy and sustaining landscape is a landscape partnership. If a landscape partnership is formed, comes to a shared understanding of what the challenges are and what needs to be done, they collaborate together to take action and collect information to demonstrate impact, they'll be more effective in both receiving funding and ultimately achieving the change in their goals that they want. In building Terraso, we collaborated and continue to work with co-design partners from all over the world. The goal was to develop a tool that isn't what we think people need, but is what people are telling us is needed. And for those of you who can see the map, it showcases where the different co-design partners that we worked with are based. And we are working with co-design partners in every single continent except for Antarctica. But what does this all mean, and what exactly is Terraso? So it's an open source software platform that we like to refer to as a toolkit. It provides users with tools and resources for data collection and sharing, mapping, storytelling, community engagement, collaboration, and capacity development. For example, Terraso users can access the Kobo toolbox directly from their Terraso account. And Kobo is a free tool for collecting, analyzing, managing data for surveys, monitoring, evaluation, and research. And it works online and is also offline compatible. Terraso users can then upload their data that they collect to their landscape account page on Terraso. That way, those that they are collaborating with can see and interact with that information. And then we've built a tool for story mapping. This allows users to really showcase their work in an engaging and interactive way. And now that I've given you this super exciting laundry list of features, I am going to turn it over to Derek Kalin, our product manager, who will really show you what Terraso is and how it works. So Derek, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Amaya. I will share my screen again and provide a demo. So I'm going to showcase some of the normal features of Terraso and bring you step by step through some of the experience that we would expect our users to go through. This is the login screen, and you can see that you can log in with a Google, Apple, or Microsoft identity. I'm going to pick Google. And this is my home screen. So you can see that there are four main areas of the website that we try to showcase. There's landscapes, groups, story maps, and tools. If I am a new member of a landscape and I want to find out whether my landscape is represented in Terraso, I can click Join Landscapes, and I can explore the map of landscapes that have already been registered with Terraso. And there are, as Amaya mentioned, a number of our co-design partners already present. You can click and explore the map or search within. If you already have a landscape, take this one, for example, the Sacred Sierra. Here's a landscape run by one of our co-design partners, ANE, based in Colombia. You can see that the page dedicated for a landscape has a map. It has a list of members. It has a broader landscape profile that can be used to share information about the landscape with third-party actors. If I want to collaborate with somebody inside a landscape, I can either participate in the landscape itself and share files and links, or if I have something that's particularly sensitive that I want to share, I can join a group. And groups, we've designed groups within Terraso to either be open so that anybody can join them, or to be closed so that members can control who can enter and get access to information. Now, I want to showcase the really interesting parts of Terraso, which are the use for the tool to collaborate with others. You can see here that I've uploaded a file of information about the landscape that has some geospatial data attached to it. I want to turn that file into a map that other people can view and gather information from. So it's as simple as clicking on Make Map. And here you'll see a very simple 5-step process for creating a data map out of this file. Select the file that I want to work with. Terraso takes a look at that file and makes a guess about the latitude and longitude information. So you can see here that it's already looked at this spreadsheet and determined that latitude and longitude belong to these two columns. Then I can choose what information I want to share through my data map. And you can see that this is a very rich data set with a lot of information. Maybe not all of it is relevant for my audience. So I'm going to only select certain columns of data to share. I want to share a name, municipality, Vareda, In the next stage, I can customize the look and feel of this map, so I can decide what people see when they actually view it. I can do things like set the map to be satellite based. I can choose a brighter color that is more visible, adjust the size of the points, maybe change the shape. I can also set annotations. So for example, I can provide a title for my map. Within a little pop-up window that appears over data points, I can choose a title from the data that I've selected. I can provide human readable names. I can also reorganize the columns to present the data more efficiently. Now I have a preview of the map, and I get to zoom in and pan the map to see how viewers of the map will be able to interact with the data. I can choose this default zoom, or I can zoom in to particular points within the map that are of interest. I can also preview what the pop-up looks like. So if I click on different points, I can see, yes, this is the appearance that I was expecting. Now, once I publish the map, it is an interactive map, and people will be able to zoom in and out and interact with it however they like. But for now, the first time that people view the map, they will see this focus. I click publish, and the map appears on the Terraso website. Now, I posted this just within my group, so only members of my group can view this list of locations. But if I wanted to share it further, I could either click the share button and share on my various different social profiles, or I could download the file as or the map as a PNG and maybe include it as an asset for a report. Anybody who views the map can also look at the raw data behind it. In this way, data maps, we hope, are a valuable tool for people to be able to explore the data that they've been collecting within a landscape. Now, one really exciting point that I want to share is a new feature that we launched recently called story maps. Story maps are tools for allowing users to basically tell a story about their landscape using a map. You move the camera from point to point and then attach narrative, media, audio. I want to show an example of what the process is to make this. So I'll load up one of the story maps that I've already been working on. So recently, Terraso launched at a formal event in Kenya. And while we were going about Kenya, while we were going about the landscape, I recorded a number of pictures, recorded a number of points using KENVO Toolbox, and in the space of a few minutes, created a story map around the different locations that we had seen. Now, I won't go into too much detail around what a final story map looks like. I'll just briefly go through this because you're about to see with our co-design partners some very fleshed out story maps. But I will show you enough that you get a sense of how the feature works. You scroll down, and the map zooms from location to location, showing media and text. Now, I was very pleased with this presentation, which we shared at the launch event, but we wanted to add an additional piece of media. And it's actually quite simple, so I'll show you how it works. I'll add a new chapter to our story map. I'll pick a location within the story map that I want to showcase. I want to set a title. And I want to share a YouTube video that our co-design partners produced. I'll click Add Media. And then, if we scroll down to the bottom of our story map, you can see that the video shows up in the location that I have set and can be played by anybody. So our goal with producing all of these tools from start to finish is to emphasize usability. Creating maps, whether they be data maps or story maps, shouldn't be something that only highly technical people can do. It should be something that anybody can do. And we hope that with Terraso, we've produced a tool that will allow landscapes to communicate and tell stories. So that is my little demo, but really now it's my pleasure to be able to introduce to you some of our co-design partners. To build Terraso, we recognize that it's critical to co-design with people who actively manage landscapes. For the past several years of development, we've sought to be guided by our co-design partners whose lived experiences would help us to build the most effective tool possible. And for that reason, I'm excited to introduce you to three groups of people who will tell us a story about their work and their landscape and how we collaborated together. They will each speak for about 7 minutes to describe their work, a challenge that they encountered, and how we have worked together to address it. So first, if I can, I'd love to turn to our partners at Fundación ALDEA. Today, we're joined by two people, Paula Maldonado Tobar and Marcelo Yanes from ALDEA. Paula is a geographical and environmental engineer with experience in rural, environmental, gender, and human rights issues. She's responsible for the, I'm sorry, we're also joined by her colleague, Marcelo Yanes, who is a monitoring technician at ALDEA, responsible for information management and for the monitoring system around human rights, indigenous peoples, and the territories of Fundación ALDEA. We collaborated with the ALDEA team to help them tell a story about a research project they've been conducting for the past year. So please, Paulo and Marcelo, would you tell us about your project?
Thank you very much, Derek and Amaya. Thank you for being here and for the invitation to this wonderful experience of being co-designers on this Terraso tool. First of all, I would like to tell you about Aldea Foundation. We are a non-profit organization and we support the building of collective strategies for the defense and the human rights exercise, collective rights, and nature rights. I want to confirm that you are looking at my screen. Yes? Okay, thank you. Okay, so I invite you to visit our website, www.aldea.org, and we work in governance and territorial governance and gender. We've been working with different tools, for example, to strengthen women at war in the Ecuadorian territory, and this territory restoration laboratory with Terraso and with its tool, we've been able to develop our story map that you will see in a few minutes. We've been working with violence against women and also topics related with murder to women, and something that's been increasing in our country. Leaderships with Afro-Equatorian women, and I would like to tell you that our work is related to the things that happen in our territory and the intersection between nature, territory, rights, people. And so from this experience, and specifically from the restoration territory of land, we were able to link and work with Terraso to develop our story maps. Marcelo, my colleague, will tell you a little bit more what we've done. We've been working with young people, men and women that are settled in the Sierra of the Andes in Ecuador, where we had a territory dispossession that was really critical in the name of protection. Derek mentioned and Amaya mentioned, Aldea has been working a few years ago a monitoring system for human rights, indigenous people, and territory. And we're seeking for the people to have access to this tool to be able to document what's happening in their territory, to record their values, their commonwealth that are being managed in a collective way with decisions that are oriented toward protection. And BICA promotes the acknowledgement and development of these territories, life territories in the world. So we focus on looking for tools so people can document their situation. And they would like to share what are the forests, the rivers are not just for their communities, for the entire world. So it is important for us to also document the threats. So they were collecting data on their territory. They filmed some videos with their cell phones after they received some training, of course. So they were able to tell what is happening in their territory. And what we did with all this media, we built a story map so you can have a look at it. Good morning, everyone. Thank you, Derek and Amaya, for the invitation. What we well, we established contact with Derek, and he asked us to tell a story that we already had. And this story is based in a territory conflict in San Jose de Minas and in the region of Chequandino. This first slide shows us where we are. We are located, or this conflict is located in the bioregion of Chocoandino, which is one of the most diverse regions in the planet. El Cantón de Atabalo and Inmabur. It was very exciting to work with Derek because we had all the information. We had already gathered all the information, but Terraso didn't have the option to upload the maps and the information that we had. And through Derek and Amaya's team, we were able to upload information so we can tell the story that we're telling now, to pin out the locations and create the maps. So that was really exciting from Terraso because they helped us to they helped us to develop the tools that they already have. In our country, we had a agricultural reform that organized the forest, and people only had property deeds if they were there. And on this second slide, what we'll see and what we really loved is that we were able to put pictures and tell the story. The conflict that we're talking about is on 2005. A territory was sold around 100 hectares. And because of some conflict, instead of being just the small part in purple that you see there, it grew to become the green polygon that you see there. And it was because of corruption. Well, this polygon, people didn't know about this, but they started to know when they sign up to a program from the Ministry of Agriculture, where they were told that they already had a polygon that was registered and they weren't able to do so by themselves. And so they discovered that their own territories were included in this polygon. So it was 3 forests that were protected, Muamba, Paso Alto, and in this polygon that was created by Sociobosque, well, our people started a fight to be able to separate themselves from this polygon, and they went to the government and to the state because they created this conflict, because they validated this polygon, and they gave money to protect the forests that were within this territory. And so in 2015, these people managed to separate their territory, but in 2017, they created, or they had some proceedings, legal proceedings, in order to separate their territories from this general territory. So what we did through this laboratory project is exactly what we are showing here, and what the story that we're telling here. Young people gather information, videos and photographs, and we can see the impact that the polygon generates against the existing population within this territory. As Derek showed us, we can see videos in this storytelling, and we will show you a video that we have here. I hope you can listen to it.
Marcello, I'm wondering, because we do have a couple of other participants to speak as well, would you be willing to share the link to the video in the chat?
Yeah, sure, no problem. So we, as Derek said, we can see the links here. We will share the link in the chat. And in this story, we find that 200 landowners were affected, and they have their own deed. 8 communities were affected too. Also public infrastructure, schools, and the 3 forests that we mentioned, Tamiganga, Cambugan, and Paso Alto. In 2020, a company that's called Rainforest from Ecuador bought this polygon, knowing the conflicts and the complexity that this territory has. So what do they want? They want to charge environmental services. And so this property is in a legal proceeding because it was bought for a different functionality, but community has raised and defend themselves throughout the conservation activities. So they declare, as we told in 2001, the protected forest Cambugan in 2010, the community management corporation, they had this a study about the forest. And as you can see, the story that we're telling is that with the communities and through conservation, they are trying to protect their territory and avoid the invasion and the dispossession. But right now, they are at risk because this company has bought 9,000 hectares. What we have here, and we'll share the link later, but we'll leave you some links here so you can have a look at it. And well, wrapping up this presentation, up until today, this community are still fighting to defend their territory and their properties. Government has knowledge about this information, but they haven't done anything. What we can do now and what we want to do is to provide towards this tool and Terraso that has allowed us to tell the story, is to share this experience. And this experience has been amazing because it has allowed us to create through maps and photos and videos and a context in writing to understand a story that is happening in this population, in this community. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We in the Tech Matters and Terraso team are very grateful to have worked with ALDEA in telling this rich important story. So our gratitude again for working so closely with us. I also wanted to turn to another one of our co-design partners. Next, I'd like to introduce Grace Washoe. Grace is a program officer at Kijabe Environment Volunteers called KENVO in Kenya. It's a community-based organization at the forefront of restoring the Lari landscape in Kenya. We actually had the very great pleasure of visiting Grace and KENVO about a couple of weeks ago for the Terraso launch, and it was frankly amazing to see their work in action. Grace, I turn it over to you, and would you like me to share my screen of your presentation?
Yes, Derek.
Wonderful, I will do so.
And while Derek's setting that up, I just
Hello, everyone.
never mind.
Please go ahead, Grace.
Hello, Derek and Maya and the rest of us. Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here and to witness the launch of Terraso. I am Grace, as Derek said, from KENVO, which is Kijabe Environment Volunteers, that is based in Kenya. We decided to do our presentation on Terraso for this purpose. So KENVO is a non-profit organization based in Kiambu County in Kenya. Our work is majorly restoring degraded forests, which are part of the Lari Landscape, and ensuring that community livelihood are improved as we do the restoration works. So we did a small presentation on Lari Landscape on what makes it special. So next slide, please. So Lari Landscape is a green landscape located in the Central Highlands, Kenya. It's on the eastern slopes of ALDEA Mountains, 30 kilometers northwest of Nairobi. It has good climate for agriculture. Most of the local community members there are farmers. Kindly scroll up, Derek. We host the only carbon mine in Kenya, in one of the forests where our offices are located. It's called Kerita Forest, which is majorly a natural forest, and our work started from that forest. Sorry, Derek, you're scrolling too fast.
Oh, I'm sorry.
The Lari Landscape is also a host. It's okay. So Lari Landscape also hosts a huge forest, not just one, it's actually two, but now they're in the same belt. They are natural forests. They host key water catchment areas for the landscape. Kindly scroll up, Derek.
Up here?
Hello. Yeah, down. The next slide.
Sure.
Sorry, scroll down now, kindly.
I think there might be a little bit of a
down
delay.
Again.
Okay. Do you want challenges facing the landscape or the following slide?
No problem. Yes. Yeah, so we have a few challenges that are facing our landscape despite our major works and trying to connect people to do the restoration works. One is partners working in silos. That means partners are working in isolation. So you find that in many cases we have duplicated work, which makes it very hard to do uniform work on the landscape. We have unsustainable agricultural methods. Now that most of the farmers of the community members around our farmers, they have, because of the pressure to produce more food, pressure to have access to markets, to have good quality products, they have turned into unsustainable agricultural methods that have resulted into land degradation, like loss of soil, a lot of soil erosion occurs. The use of chemicals have caused a lot of issues. A lot of diseases have cropped up for the crops. The other issue is deforestation and degradation of native forests. A lot of these people used to, actually, they had moved into the forest, and there was a lot of work to remove them from the forest. With that now, they've turned into cutting down the trees as they try to find more land to cultivate. Others cut down the trees for timber and other commercial purposes. Another challenge we are facing is the excessive loss of crops due to surplus harvest and inaccessible markets. A lot of times when the rain comes, it sees a lot of farmers having so much harvest, especially in the vegetable sector. So much of those vegetables end up getting spoiled because now there are too many in the market and people are not willing to buy. So the other option is just to throw them away. Also, because the markets are either too far away from the farmers, inaccessible infrastructures, and the farmers don't have enough information to access those markets. Another issue we've been facing recently in the last 5 years is the erratic rains. Normally we would have long rains from March, they'll extend all the way to end of June. But now, right now, the rain has already stopped, so we can't even call it long rains. The other season of rain is it happens on October all the way to December. We call it the short rain season. That one is not even happening anymore. This year and last year was the worst, to the point where the rivers dried and people had no water. So those erratic rain season have now forced the farmers to look for other means of livelihood, because now, since they depended on rain for agriculture, they can't do that anymore. Another challenge is the lack of information on available market for produce and how deforestation affects the arable land and conflicting policies. In Kenya, in terms of policies, we have various ministries or departments, and each department in this natural resources management have different policies, which confuse the farmers, especially when it comes to things like forest, the rivers. For example, you might find from the Ministry of Water and Forest, you have farmers being told to not cultivate their land 30 meters from the river. And you find the Ministry of Land is telling them another policy comes up that says that you should not cultivate 20 meters from the river. And those two policies are being implemented on only one person, the farmer. They are affecting the farmer. So it makes them confused on what to follow exactly. On markets, most of the farmers here don't have information on proper markets for their produce. The only available information is for all the local markets they have here. They don't have any other information, so that makes it very hard for them to access the markets. The next slide, please. Derek.
I have moved to the next slide. It might take a second for the connection to catch up.
It's okay. So our next slide is talking about how we've used Terraso. Mostly we've used it for data collection, especially using Kobo Toolbox. we've had these projects that we've been giving out grafted has avocado tree seedlings to farmers in a bid to increase tree cover in farms, to provide alternative sources of food for the farmers through the avocado fruit, and also to ensure that farmers have they get income from the selling of those avocado fruits now that the demand for avocado fruit has increased around the world. So KOBO has really helped because now we have data on each and every farmer. We gave the avocado seedlings. As you can see from behind the background, the map, all those dots represent all the farmers that we've covered, who have benefited from the avocado tree seedlings. They are like 920 in total. Another thing, with this data collection, it has made it easier to monitor because now we don't even have, the first time was hard because we had to go from farm to farm searching for those farmers. Now we don't have to do that because we already have their details and their location. The other part, it's data visualization. Terraso has helped in that, and now you can be able to see now these farmers and their location, which makes it very interesting. And now I don't have to tell stories of where the farmers are located. I just have to show you this is where they are, and from wherever you are in the world, you can actually get to see where those farmers are. It's also a great and friendly tool for sharing our activities. Like now, I can see Derek has been creating the Lari Landscape story already. So now you can already see what we've done. You can see our activities as a group with other partners, what we've been able to accomplish, the successes, and the impact that we've had on the local community and others outside our community. And it also shows, it's also a way of marketing ourselves to the outside world. In case there is any of you would be willing to support our cause, yeah, that would be it. It offers a great platform for that. And that marks the end of my presentation. Thank you.
Grace, thank you so much. And I'll say again, it was such a privilege and a pleasure to be able to visit KENVO and see all the fantastic work that you are doing as a community-based organization in Lari. It's truly inspiring, and we're honored to be able to support you. The last person that I want to introduce is our good friend, Damien Fernandez. Damien is a senior advisor for Conservation International in Guyana, as well as being a special advisor to the Guyana Protected Areas Commission and part of its board of directors. He's an extraordinary storyteller, and it was really a pleasure to be able to collaborate with him on his own story. Damien, would you share a little bit about your work in Guyana?
That was very flattering, Derek. Thank you for the introduction. Can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, I think it's just remarkable, the stories that are already kind of showing up on Terraso. And to me, that is the true potential that it represents. Can you see my screen?
Yes, we can see.
Yes, we can.
So I talk a bit today about my country. I'm Guyanese. It's a country that often kind of hides on the map, or it has been for hiding on the map for a while. It's east of Venezuela, west of Suriname, and north of Brazil. If you could imagine what maybe a South American Jamaica would be like, that's kind of what Guyana is, but a lot more than that. And the story that we started to tell with Terraso was the story of our coast. I'm not sure if you know much about the country, but it's about the size of Florida or Great Britain. It has the population of maybe Washington, D.C. There's less than 1 million people. Maybe another way to think about it is the size of Ecuador with half the population of Quito concentrated on a small strip of coast. This is what it looks like. And it's not the most resilient place because we live in the shadow of a wall that keeps the ocean out. It's 6 feet at high tide, 6 feet above our land and our agriculture at high tide. So we've been kind of protected by this wall for centuries. But how we got into this position is really interesting. And I think that is what this particular story is about. At its core, it's a story about loss, healing, and growth through connection, and connection through storytelling. This course wasn't always like this. In fact, it was pulled from the Atlantic by, we call it an earth engine that is functioning between the Amazon and the Orinoco. It pumps silt out in the millions of tons, and then mangroves all along the coast up to the Orinoco captures it and grows and expands the land. That is what the colonial Dutch found when they came here first. That is what they cleared, and they built a wall. They used the fertile plain that had been built for centuries for sugarcane cultivation. And they kind of used that as the base for the colonization of my country. I am among the lucky generation to be born as Guyanese for the first time in our chain. My parents were born as citizens of the empire, the British Empire. I was born in a country that looked like this, but we want to dream different dreams and build a country that looks like this, one that has healed from our past, and one in which the broken connections that was the result of our colonization, the broken connection with nature, one that has begun to heal and allows us to continue to grow. I wanted to kind of just give you a quick sense of the story, the amazing story that is this country. We are mostly forested, but we have inland tropical savannas for some of the few left in the Amazon. Nature kind of has defined our identity for a long time, and it's at the center of our low carbon development strategy, which is how we choose to develop. We're trying to figure that out now as a country of many different people. But Guyana is in this unusual place where when I was born, it was ranked as the second poorest country in the Western Hemisphere after Haiti. As it stands today, Guyana is the fastest growing economy on the planet and is expected to grow over 25% annually. 25% annually up to 2026. We're at the beginning of a new moment for this country. And I think we have this opportunity to build differently and to learn the lessons both from our past and the stories of others that have pursued development for their people. I wanted to pause here for a moment to kind of uncover that forest and savanna and show you what's really happening under that blanket of life that covers this part of the world. Guyana is in the middle of an ancient formation from close to 2 billion years ago. This was peeping up above the ocean when plants and animals had not yet evolved. The stories that this landscape has seen is kind of beyond my imagination. But from where I'm sitting as a Guyanese now, the story itself is worth telling for the last maybe 200 years. This landscape, this formation was split by a rift valley. You'll see it kind of moving from the bottom up through Bovista Letem and then out to the coast. This hidden rift valley allows the Amazon and our water systems to mix in a huge wetland space. So there's huge diversity higher than the Okavango Delta and the Pantanal. And a phenomenon that we're only now trying to understand. But in this rift valley, indigenous people would travel from this deep in the Amazon to the Atlantic coast in a much faster time. They've left their stories carved into rocks called petroglyphs up and down this chasm between these two worlds. And then in the colonization of our country, this was the path through which humans were enslaved and traded. The first humans to be enslaved on this landscape were indigenous people. And then that enslavement expanded to African persons as well. Guyana then, the colonial British at that point then tried to engineer Guyana the same way they engineered our coast and brought people from Madeira off the coast of Morocco, which I trace my ancestry. People from India, China, Malta, and many other places. So what Guyana is the stories of many. And I think Terraso does something really important. It allows these different stories that are layered on top of the same landscape to be told. I think when stories are told of the same landscape, sometimes they rub up against each other and cause friction. Different dreams are being dreamt of the future of the landscape. And some people feel their stories are being delegitimized by others. But that is the comfort that's necessary for a country like ours. We need to spend time in that discomfort, hold these different stories. We need to figure out a way to hold these different stories and in them identify a shared Guyanese heritage. And I think we're beginning to do that. And through that, we're beginning to heal similarly to what is happening on our coast, where I wanted to take you quickly. And I'll end there. This is what Guyana looked like in 1798. At this point, Napoleon was at war. He had just taken Alexandria. And Guyana itself had been caught between the French, the Dutch, and the British in the war of the time. What I think is an untold part of this moment in our history is that we were coming out of a little ice age that resulted from, among other things, the loss of 55 million lives in the Americas through its colonization. Most of that was through disease, but 90% of all people in the Americas, including Guyana, died during that period. Compare that to the about 7 million people that have died from COVID. This is 55 million. And the loss of the way nature was taking back a lot of agricultural spaces, it was contributing to the little ice age. The frozen rivers in Europe that was being used for conquest was partly due to nature securing carbon as it retook all of these civilizations in the Americas. And that is when this map was drawn. And you can see we had lost all of our mangroves at this point. But the mangroves and the mud have not been quiet, and I wanted to show you what it looks like in some parts of this landscape. And this is during the period where the rest of the world is experiencing disappearing coastlines. This is off the coast of Guyana in French Guyana, where the effect of the mud coming from the Amazon being captured by the mangroves are growing back land and kind of reclaiming parts of the ocean. In Guyana, where we've lost all of those mangroves, we're starting to see healing irrespective of that. And we have begun to look at how we can engineer a coast to allow for healing, allow for the reconnection to this building of land through natural processes. You can see in this diagram, the mud from the Amazon is sliding in front of our sea defenses on our farms. And mangroves have begun to take it over. Once this positions itself in front of this transformed landscape, it can grow by itself as waves of mud show up over the centuries. It can keep up with climate change. And in so doing, it can give us a future on this coast, one that is built with nature and where nature was not treated as something to be extracted from. It doesn't.
Damien, I hate to
Yes.
interrupt. I just want to acknowledge to the group here that we are at time. However,
That's
I think
fine. I'm closing on.
I do want to say, Damien, thank you so much. Like through a consistent theme of our conversations together, you've emphasized the power of storytelling to shape everything from, you know, the way that people interact with each other to policy. I personally find it extremely inspiring, and I'm deeply grateful for you being willing to share that story. And also to everybody in the chat, I wanted to say we have shared Damien's story and the story of other people who have participated in this webinar so that you can peruse them further. Damien, if it's all right with you, I might move us towards the close. Thank you very much. So in the very brief minute that we have remaining, I will share my screen and point to where we are going in the future. I hope that you all can see the Terraso roadmap. So clearly, we've heard a lot of emphasis from our co-design partners that story maps are helpful to them, and we have worked with them to plan out what we're going to do to extend upon story maps, including increasing the ability for people to collaborate with others, adding data to story maps in new and different ways, drawing on story maps so people can demarcate the parts that are important to them. We will be building upon our mapping functionality more generally, allowing people to pursue different ways to produce maps. We will, and there we go, focus on data sharing and allow people to be able to not simply bring data sets into Terraso, but to make their data available to the other platforms that they are using to manage their landscape. And we will be working more with our 1000L partners on various integrated landscape management tools, including landscape investment portfolios, the ability to showcase landscape projects, and to provide an interactive tool for allowing people to navigate ILM and manage their landscape over time. So with that being said, I'll hand it over to you, Amaya, to close us out.
Yes, well, I wanted to thank our panelists for sharing their stories. The work that you're doing and the stories you're telling they're so powerful and so inspiring and so moving. And thank you for sharing that with everybody here today. And thanks everyone else for joining and watching and being interested in Terraso and our work. We are at time, so I'd like to invite people to probably email us questions if you have any. We'll answer any questions that weren't answered during these presentations and during this session after the fact. And then when we send out the links to the recording, we can also send out the answers to those questions. Yeah, I think, as I said, we're at time, so we should probably wrap up. But again, thank you to everyone. And thanks again from the bottom of my heart to Paula and Marcelo and Damien and Grace. I have been rendered speechless.
We couldn't do it without you all. Well,
Thank you
with
all.
that, I think, thank you everybody for joining us, and we hope that you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. We can probably stop recording.
Yes.